So today we're here to talk about twin flames, which is kind of like this trendy yet ridiculous topic, kind of controversial. Um, yeah, so how are we feeling about this conversation? I'm excited, and you're like the only person I would really talk about this with.
Yes, same. I think it's wild how we met at an event and then I feel the twin topic kind of naturally flooded in and then we were both like, "Whoa, okay, this is exciting." But yeah, it's a controversial topic for sure. It's a love-hate topic, but I'm excited to just kind of go over what we define as the twin journey and kind of what we both have moved through from it because it's a lonely journey and so I think it's really beautiful to connect with other twins such as you and me to just like support each other while we navigate the ups and downs of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll go into defining what that is for the audience in just a bit, but there are other experiences, spiritual or otherwise, that just make you feel like you're the only one going through it and you can't talk about it with other people because you think you will be judged or this is like just too ridiculous of a thing. I
Yeah,
felt that for a very long time. So I'm happy we met. And I had someone, I could trust that feels like we could just have this conversation openly. hmm
definitely.
Okay, so everyone, this is Camille. So Camille, just briefly tell us who you are, what you do.
Yes. So my name's Camille and I run a small spiritual mentorship, energy healing business, breathwork called Essence Within, where I do one-on-ones and also in-person events where I lead breathwork, a lot of embodiment practices, so cold plunging and some somatic dancing and healing. And I've been kind of on the path, the spiritual path since 2021 intensely and felt very called to start this small business as my whole life has transformed through this awakening self discovery path I've been on. And I just love how the spiritual space, we all kind of have this we all have our unique gifts, but at the end of the day, we're all very passionate and dedicated to helping others discover who they truly are and open their heart more and tap into unconditional love. And so that's kind of a little background on me and yeah.
Yeah. We met earlier this year, what, like end of March in San Diego when we went to this event. And we both know Jess. And I feel like you and I just kind of clicked very quickly.
Very. Yeah, I was like, hey.
Yeah, and then we followed each other on Instagram. I saw you posted something on your stories about having a twin flame, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she has one." I'm like, I need to talk to you about this. I just have a few questions.
It's funny because I feel with probably the work we both do, you and I, we try to avoid that topic, but sometimes the divine's like, you gotta, this is a download, you gotta talk about it. So I think here and there, it's good to just, yeah, I sometimes I'll dabble a little into like something I've moved through or what I want to share because you never know who you're gonna reach. And funny enough, a couple of random accounts messaged me, were like, hey, thanks for like posting that. And then you just start to see naturally like who needed to attract into your field so you can support each other and also kind of just get that guidance from one another, right? And support. So yeah, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get to the topic.
Okay.
So Camille, briefly, in your own words, tell us what is a twin flame?
Yeah. So from the research I've done, and if we go way, way, way back, because I was curious on kind of where did this originate from, and from the readings I've done in research, they talk about how 2,500 years ago in Greek mythology, Plato talks about calling back the other half and unconditional love and what that kind of means. And it's really interesting to see how far this term goes back. And then another quote I read from this psychologist named Dr. Lisa Vejo, she says, this kind of high level soul based connection isn't about romance, it's about spiritual growth. You meet them and your life just completely changes. You start seeing the world differently. It pushes you to want to engage with the divine, shift your consciousness, and become a better soulful being in this experience. So, on that note, and doing some research, my definition is, and from what I've experienced and how I have felt, a twin flame is the same exact soul blueprint frequency that has been incarnated in two different physical vessels at the same time in the same lifetime. And apparently, we're in the second wave. I just realized from 2015 to now, we are kind of told to be the second wave of twin flame. So, yeah, I feel you just continue more and more to understand, and everything kind of makes sense of like, okay, I had soul recognition with my twin in 2021, and everything just starts to make more sense. But that's my term for it, is you're the exact same soul frequency, and it's very powerful and it's very intense, and it's basically seeing yourself in another person. So it's very trippy from the mind and ego.
Okay. Um, Camille, I understand everything you just said only because I have like had this experience myself, but like how did that play out for you? And I'll share my experience too. How did that play out for you in the 3D?
Yes, great question. So I was living in Puerto Rico at the time, and I was married, and I had been married for 6 years, and a lot of things started crumbling in my life, including my marriage. I started just feeling really confused and dense, and my body started shutting down. I wouldn't say I started getting sick, but like I just knew something wasn't right. And I went back home to Arizona and went to this reunion, and that's kind of when everything happened. That's when I had soul recognition with my twin, was at a reunion. And as a lot of people say, you have this rush of energy that comes through your body, and it's almost like the energy like pushes you towards them. And then once you have that eye contact, you you feel this sense of home. But again, kind of coming back to the mind and ego thing, it's very hard to comprehend. You're kind of just moving through it, and your body's feeling a lot. You feel this love, and it's just, and then ever since I went to that reunion, I went back to Puerto Rico, knew I had to get divorced. The divine started pushing me to really redefine my life. And I went through intense dark night of the soul. I went through this intense bubble love phase with the twin, where you feel like they're your person. You feel that you have so much love for them that you can't even fathom the feelings. And I would spend nights just falling on the floor. Like, I almost want to cry now, because like thinking back to those moments, it's just like, what the hell is going on? And it's this dynamic of confusion, pain, uncertainty, but also this like soulful feeling of everything's okay. I love myself. I love this person, and I want to explore it more, and I want to see kind of what unravels and what I need to learn from this, because I think from the soul, your soul's definitely telling you you need to continue having contact with this person, at least for, I hear the bubble of phase lasts from like 4 to 6 weeks, and that's exactly what the time frame was, of like the back and forth of seeing each other, the intimacy. And then after those weeks end, the running and chasing begins. And it's just the energy is way too intense to even like continue what you're doing. And that's kind of when you enter the next phase of this separation, running, chasing, confusion, doing a lot of research. Um, and I guess I started doing a lot of research. I was seeing oracle healers, and they were confirming you are a twin. And they told me really calmly, because it's a lot to process. You're just like, please just like help me through this. And I did a tarot reading, and of course, like all the tarot cards that were pulled was like the sun, the lovers, and then I think like the moon. And those are all just like confirmations. And so, and then of course you see 1111 and 444, and you're just like, you can't freaking turn it off. And so I could go on and on, but yeah, I guess it's been quite a journey. And again, this was in 2021, so I've been on the path for three years now, and it's intense. There's a lot of crying. There's a lot of ego death, dark night of the soul. There's a lot of back and forth energy of this is bull crap. I don't like what am I even doing? What am I even thinking? But then you come back to like, I know for a fact that I have unconditional love for this person, and it really just taps you deeper, deeper, deeper into your inner work, into your soul discovery.
Gosh. Um, that is like a lot. I'm curious. Okay, so you started your spiritual kind of. I feel like everyone's like always on like their spiritual journey, but it like blasted open in 2021. Was this like kind of early on, like meeting your twin flame?
Yes, so this was actually, so after I had met the twin, I separated from my husband for 7 months. And so then I went back to Puerto Rico to give it one more try. So this is actually was back when I was in Puerto Rico, and just the divine was working through me so intensely, because I think they're like, oh no, she went back to the wrong plan. She should not be following this plan. And so they were just telling me to, yeah, create a spiritual community. And so I got really deep into like women circles. I was actually doing like a breathwork women circles in person before I went virtual in Puerto Rico. And yeah, I was just doing tons of breath work, getting a lot of downloads, a lot of Kundalini activations. And so this was when I hadn't officially divorced yet, but I was back in Puerto Rico and giving my marriage one more chance before in December of 2022. In 2022 that I officially left, and then I ended up getting divorced. But yeah, that was the time frame for kind of when I started my spiritual business. What about for you? Do you want to go into yours, or do you want to
Yours
should
sounds
we
so much more like spicier than mine.
really?
Yeah, gosh, I'm kind of like I'm trying to not overthink it. There's so many directions we can go with this. Obviously,
I
like
know,
this is just like a 45 minutes to an hour conversation, so it's not like
right?
comprehensive. It's just like sharing like like pieces. So I am curious. I think this needs to be talked about. What you mentioned in the beginning, like one of the quotes, it said twin flame is not meant to be like romantic. So when you met your twin, did it feel romantic off the get go?
That's a great question. I have two answers. I will say, I think because of the intense energy you feel, and because of the heart chakra activation that it causes, I will say yes. I mean, at first, I you kind of fantasize, and that's why they call the first phase like the bubble love phase, because neither person can really understand, and probably neither have felt this much love for another human. And so, yeah, I will say at first it felt romantic, but the more we saw each other and when it got too intense, I will say with time and over time, you notice after you have a physical conversation with them or see them, it actually made me go more hermit to do more of my inner work and tapped me more into self-love. And so I think that's kind of how I slowly shifted. Like, of course, right away you're like intimate, the sex is like insane. You're just like, what is going on? Like, this is ecstasy type stuff, and it's just like, again, you're trying to comprehend it, and also like your heart chakra is just super open and activated. But then I think the more and more you see the mirroring that's happening, right? That kind of helped me continue to go more inward to be like, okay, this person's triggering me really intensely, and it's making me want to really dive deep and like do my work, and I don't feel like I'm supposed to date this person. And I actually did a tarot reading with this really great woman named Emma, and she kind of has guided me through this, and she goes, define define union. Like, define union, because on the internet it's, let me take you through this 6 course meditation so you can have union, and it's just this really salesy, awful pitch that's like really rubs me the wrong way personally, because I think this is just such a sacred like inner journey, but I understand everyone is kind of on their unique path. But defining union, you're one soul. So like separation is an illusion, because energetically you're already one and you're already in union. And so I think that has really shifted a lot for me, and my perspective is like, physical separation exists, yes, but energetically, like, you are always one and are always in union and are always continuing to like get to better, stronger self union with yourself. So that like strengthens the counterparts of divine feminine and divine masculine, and you're just learning to alchemize both polarities.
um, I would
Oh yeah,
say
I'm rambling.
no, I like it. I was thinking how, because you're kind of saying how like the twin flame journey is really about self-love, but for me it's definitely like a interaction with this other person, meeting them and feeling all those like very intense feelings that you find very delightful but also foreign, and you don't experience this type of feeling with anybody else. Meeting my twin inspired me to be a better human being, but also like was triggering because it like brought up a lot of insecurities. So
Totally.
that indirectly became like a self-healing journey, because it's kind of like, oh, this like connection caused me so much like confusion and pain that I had like no other thing to do but to like focus on kind of just like lessening that pain.
Yeah,
It's interesting. Hmm. It's kind of like meeting someone super special that put you on like this like path.
like a catalyst.
Yeah, yeah. Um honestly, I feel like my twin pisses me off. And there was like a while where when I thought like, oh, it would be great to be in like physical union. But then if like the opportunity was actually presented to me, I think that would just be like unsustainable.
Agreed, because what you feel towards them is a lot of times what you are internally feeling, either within yourself or, and I'll give like a quick example coming up about the pissing you off, like something they do, it triggers us. And I think what I've learned is everything they're doing that's pissing us off and triggering us is just things that reflect back on us. And then that's when I go deeper and kind of like reflective, like, okay, is he just a douche? And like, is he trying to piss me off? Or is this something that is deeper and like that I need to really heal within myself? And so I think I just took that approach with time of why does this person piss me off so bad? And it's because you're basically like, you have to already deal with your own individual physical vessel and what you feel in your body and like what you move through, but you're also feeling their energy, their divine masculine energy, and it's almost like you're healing for two people. And I think that's what pisses me off a lot is like I'll feel some solar plex activations that are unpleasant and I get feelings that they're not mine and then I have to go and heal them. And Christina, as we know, she is the event we went to, Christina Rice. She's only done a couple YouTubes, I think, on the twin information, but she says you have a shared, you share a chakra system, and I think that's been a really tricky part of the journey for me. Is they're feeling what you're feeling what they're feeling, and energetically, you just have to work with that every single day. So it's a piss off. It's a trigger because you're like, gosh, damn it, I gotta do my work, but I'm also like feeling their energy and have to like alchemize and work with it and heal it. And so it's an ongoing, overwhelming process, right?
um, you know how okay, I'll just put this out there. I think if someone doesn't have a twin flame, this conversation would just be like kind of ridiculous. But if someone has a twin flame, this would maybe resonate. Maybe not all of it, but some of it, maybe all of it. But I will just say, it's one of those things. If you don't have a twin flame, you just won't understand. And what you just brought up, the whole like sharing the chakra system, haven't thought about that in a while. But that used to really bother me too, because it's like I already have so much to deal with within myself, and now there's this other person, and I cannot like control them. And this is like one of those like if you know type thing. Like the twin flame separation is so real. This person could be just like within your 10-mile radius, but like if you don't talk, you just don't talk. And I can't quite explain why. It's very silly.
Yeah. I think for you too, you guys live in the same state where with mine we're in separate states. So you probably feel the energy of like knowing he's like physically, geographically near. So yeah, how have you kind of managed and dealt with, okay, I know he is literally in San Diego, I'm in San Diego, we're in separation. How have you kind of worked through that process and like found more balance and like neutrality through those knowings and
Um, I think before it was like a lot harder before I realized what it was. And realizing someone, your connection with someone is a twin flame connection is very subjective. So before I realized what it was like it would like piss me off. It's like, am I not good enough?
right.
And then we had like a bigger separation for like an extended period of time. That's when I realized, oh, this is like what people call a twin flame connection. And I just want to emphasize like Camille and I, we're not dumbasses. I know this is a controversial topic, and with like a certain documentary that's on Netflix, this can be a little controversial. But realizing that made me feel less insane. Yeah. So this was like when we were like very, very separated. And now he's back in this city because I've like low key been forced to do like the self healing, the inner union work, not by choice. It's like, again, you don't really have a choice. um,
Right.
yeah. So because all that had to happen, now that he is back in this city, I actually feel fine.
Okay.
Yeah, like maybe just like 5% bothered versus 85, which I'll take.
I think what's coming through right now is the Twin Flame Collective. I feel there's either twins who are coming into union, which, you know, one girl I follow, Gabriella, she's in union with her twin. And then there's twins like us who I think have kind of extracted out of those desires because I think we're on Earth. Earth has free will, right? Like we are here to have free will. And this twin flame coach I follow on YouTube called New World All Star, he he says, please drop all the fluffy stuff and just hear me out. You can either be with your twin, because the more you heal, they'll magnetize in, so you have the choice to be with them. Two, you choose a soulmate because a soulmate kind of brings that romantic, emotional, up and down. You're working with a different soul, so you have like that dynamic, right? Where it's a little more exciting, and or you can just be alone. And so like I really liked his perspective on that because like at the end of the day there's no right or wrong. And I think what really triggers me is a lot of twin flame coaches, they'll reach out to me and be like, "Are you with your twin?" or
God, cringe.
"Oh," and I'm just like, and I explain, no, I'm in a soulmate connection. It's beautiful. It feels divine. I'm still growing. He's growing with me. And I choose not to like be in the physical with my same soul. And I just think what I'm trying to get at is we have free will and there's no right or wrong way to do this journey.
That is true. The woman you mentioned who is like in union with her twin flame, honestly, who knows what will happen? Life is a very long time. I
Yeah.
don't know her, but you know, anything could happen. Maybe one day she's like, "Oh, maybe this isn't my twin flame. Maybe this is how I felt before, but this person is actually like just my soulmate." Again, all of this is like very subjective, and I'm curious how you would define union.
Yeah, kind of coming back to my point earlier, I mean, don't get me wrong. After I got divorced, I reached out, let him know I was moving to Austin, and kind of tried to go for it. I was like, heck, I'm single now. Like, I should let him know, and I kind of was like, I'll reach out and see, but you can never really wait for the masculine. And I think that's what the feminine does for so long, whether you're a true twin or not, because a lot of people who think they're twins are just in really weird, toxic, unhealthy karmic dynamics where they're literally so desperate to like have this person date them. So like that's why again we come back to it's controversial, it's delicate, it's raw, it's complex. And yeah, I think union for me is there's there's two unions, right? I mean, the energetic union, it's always there because he comes through my dream state.
Still,
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, like he won't even be on my mind, and like I'll have a dream where he comes through. I'll have a meditation and he'll come through my meditations where it's almost like I'm being so descriptive, but we're like standing mirroring each other, and like our hands are touching each other's hearts because again, telepathy and all of that communication and energy is exchanged through the heart chakra, through the heart portal. And so I think, and that makes me feel good and joy because that means I'm continuing to really tap into my heart, lead from my heart, heal my heart. Um, but yeah, sorry, I kind of went on a rant, but coming to your question, I think physical union can happen. And I think a lot of twins are striving to end in physical union because if we want to talk positively for a second, I think it's really beautiful if twins are in physical union and anytime they heal and ascend, the divine counterpart is literally matching that exact energy. So you're constantly like yin and yang, just like going up the ladder together. Whereas with the soulmate, you're healing and ascending, but they could be a little behind, and so that's the difference. Like, I see why twins who are in physical union talk about how it's beautiful because you're mirrors, right? So you're constantly ascending and growing together. But again, energetically, I think union is always there. And so it really depends like what your goal is and what it means for you personally. What about you?
What I think about union.
Yeah.
Huh. I honestly don't know anybody who is actually like in a relationship with their twin flame, like personally. I think it actually like weirds me out a little bit.
Right. It's kind of upsetting and like unsettling too.
Yeah. Um yeah, I don't know. If somebody says, "Oh, they're in union," like as in like they're in a relationship with their twin flame, I'll just be like, "Oh, that's good for you." Obviously, like we would
Mhm.
never know. Sometimes I just need to like when I used to get really in my head about the twin flame stuff, I kind of just tell myself, maybe this is all bullshit.
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah,
right?
yeah. It's like I would never really know until maybe when I die.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of just like take off the spirituality hat and be like, how will I just approach this if I'm just like leaning into the 3D stuff? Yeah, so I'm kind of just like letting this like do its thing. Can't control it anyways. But I will say, after connecting like pretty genuinely in a romantic way with somebody else after my twin, I was like, this is so much more nourishing and balanced and like sustainable. So I kind of like just thought about it differently. Maybe I don't want to be in union with my twin because this could just be like too intense. It's called twin flame for a reason. It's like a flame.
Oh, good perspective. I like it. It's
Yeah.
true.
Like I don't want to be triggered all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be very difficult. Yeah.
Well, you talk about how you're with like a high level soulmate. Um can you like describe what that is like compared to when you're like in person with your twin flame?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think right off the bat, I will say too, I think with the twin journey, it has elevated my frequency and vibration, like in ways that I can't even describe. Like, I feel I've jumped timelines. I have had tons of friendships and I've attracted in way better high vibrational beings. I eat better. Like, it kind of not only like transformed my energy, but it's also like created a better physical reality. Like, it basically upgrades your life because it just forces you to really look at yourself. And when you look at yourself and you do the work, you jump timelines, you ascend, you enter this new timeline and version that's for your higher good. And so on that note, I kept having right when I moved to Austin, I got the dating apps and I kept having the same type of man magnetize in, which was kind of a little bit narcissisty, a little bit like talked a lot about themselves, but like really good looking, really well off, like good career. But I was like, this is interesting. Like, this is definitely feels like a test, like a lesson. So the more I cut out those first few dates I went on, I think I dated for 2, 3 months, just moving to Austin. And I felt every time I ended it quite quickly, like cold turkey with each of those men. That's when I met John, my partner. And it was I had deleted the apps. So it's like I had to do all these things to really like let that sacred space and energy manifest itself. And the love was very strong, very intensely, very quickly, but it wasn't coming back to the way the twin makes us feel. There was no triggers. Yeah, it felt very nurturing, very calm. And I think that's where the battle is of people who say choosing a soulmate is totally fine over twin, because for our 3D life, we don't want to be constantly triggered. We don't want to be constantly on our toes. We don't want to have to like constantly be looking in the mirror. We want a supportive, nurturing, divine partner who's going to counterbalance us in a way that, okay, you're not my same soul, but frequency wise, you're very similar. So that's why it feels so good, right? Is like your frequencies really balance each other very beautifully. And so, yeah, I've been with the soulmate for a year and a half, and I've done a lot of growing, healing. I would, I wouldn't say we're karmics, and this is something I've had to really go inward. Is like, is he karmic? But I don't think he is. My ex husband, he was a karmic soulmate for sure because we healed a lot of karma together. But I feel with John, we're individually healing things separately, and then once we do that separately, we ascend together. Whereas like with karmics, isn't it where like you're healing similar karmas together? So I think that's where I see that different is like I feel constantly ascension symptoms with John, which I think is quite beautiful and kind of the way the divine wants it to go. So hopefully, yeah,
Yeah. I can't speak on karmic soulmates too much. I don't really know what that's about, but I think that can just be like a little bit more challenging.
yeah,
When I think about soulmate, I think about like healthy healing, like healthy challenges that like nourish you and grow you and doesn't torture you. When I think about
exactly.
karmic soulmate, again, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but it feels sticky and challenging, like in a very like well, for me, sometimes I think about my ex as my karmic soulmate. Um, it's just
Right,
there. I hate the term karmic debt, but it's almost like there's just like something you need to complete here. Um, and once that's like completed, you guys can like do your own thing and go on your own path. Um, but it can definitely be challenging. Twin flame is a whole other thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can just tell like coming back to how like when we just know we know because like what all of the different connections have felt like and what we have moved through individually through each of those connections, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say with my twin flame experience, I definitely am such a better human being after going through that. Because before that, I never was like compassionate. Like, I had no empathy. Now I think about it. I'll be like, oh, you're sad about your ex boyfriend? Just get over it. He's not thinking about you. I will say, like, I learned a lot about compassion, but also being like more realistic about what I want in this lifetime as a human. We can think about like soul and sharing the same soul and sharing a chakra system and all of those things. But at the end of the day, like that is helpful to an extent. And
Right?
for me, having like a twin flame, I was like, oh, I don't like it, but it's like I just like care for this person. But because I'm like leaning into what really serves me, I'm investing in like people and things that like invest in me.
Right.
Yeah. Cause I cannot be with like my twin flame when I like just cannot count on this person. Kind of like it kind of like just keeps me on my toes, but like all the time.
Yeah. It doesn't feel it doesn't feel safe and stable and secure. Like it's always a shit show. Even if we've done the healing and ascension, like we're still kind of in that next phase of like, okay, that doesn't mean I want to be with them now and that it will be completely bliss and butterflies, right? Like it's always going to be strange.
Yeah, so I would say like for me personally, I don't think I'm meant to be with my twin flame. Um and as you mentioned, some people do get into union with their twin, and I guess everyone just has a different path. But it's kind of like again, like I like that you said you can't do this journey wrong. And what bugged me so much before was like, why do I have to share a soul with someone who pisses me off so much?
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of like, well, soul, like, what the fuck were you thinking? Because it's like, yes, you care for this person. Or, okay, I'm speaking for myself. It's like, yes, I care for this person. I don't so much respect him as a man.
That hit. That just hit for me because I think I feel very similar. And every time I have those feelings, or just like see a photo or something, where I'm just like, I either don't resonate or yeah, something it just doesn't. You just have to like meet them with love and compassion for where they are,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I'm just like, huh, interesting. We share a soul or whatever. Yeah, but I would say it's kind of like, yes, you share a soul with this person, but it's kind of hard when you're like deep in it, but you do have free will. And if this person doesn't show up for you, is I was so afraid, it's like, am I gonna feel this pain for the rest of my life? Or this frustration? But I feel like at this point of my journey, I'm like, oh, this actually doesn't bother me nearly as much as a few months ago. So I this is not a pain I have to feel for the rest of my life, which is very comforting.
I like that. And I think what I've concluded through this path and journey is I feel it's like a sacred friendship. Like that's the term I will end with is I'm at a point where I feel very happy with where I'm at in my life and I feel I'll be in a lifelong partnership with this soulmate and you just accept that I will always care and love this person energetically and it's almost like you'll just continue supporting each other from afar energetically, I think. That's how I think of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like having a child. At some point, you need to let them do their own thing.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's like this childlike care, like that you feel for them. And I think the feminine goes through such different feelings and processes compared to the masculine. I think they know this connection's intense, but the feminine does a lot more of
The leading.
inver- the leading and like the inverted inner work and like has the more like energetic spiritual answers inside to it where the masculine they're kind of just mirroring our growth which is it's troubling to say, but like yeah, we are the lead. We do lead, and we when we do our work and when we ascend, they ascend with us.
Do
So
they though?
that's what I'm told. That's what I'm told. They ascend to as much as they can, because again, their soul is ascending, but is their physical vessel integrating the light body frequency that's undergoing? And I think that's what's tricky about it is the masculine will never really know what we've moved through or understand, and I think that's hard for me is like when I try to vocally speak how I feel, what I've been moving through, like they're not going to resonate to an extent because even though they feel similarly that unconditional love and intense energy, they just won't get it. And so I think holding all that pain and beauty and exciting excitingness and like holding it true to you because again this is about our journey and our soul mission and soul path, and I think the greatest lesson I've taken from this is I'm here to be a way shower to others to help them tap into their soul blueprint and deconstruct ego karmic beliefs and suffering. And I think to an extent, light workers, star seeds, twin flames, we're all here to do a very similar duty for earthly beings, which is help them just get out of this dense loop that they're stuck in, right? And really like tap them into their potential and help them like define that they're an infinite soul who like has a lot of special gifts themselves. And I think that's been the greatest takeaway is like it's put me in this really beautiful path and just honoring and having gratitude, right? Even though it's been a freaking wild, weird.
Wild. Like there was a point I'm like, there's no reality I can appreciate this BS. I think it did teach me so much about relationship dynamics because I'll tell you when I was like what after I've met my twin, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am anxious avoidant," and all of those triggers, and I, like, did everything under the sun, um, is, like, father wound healing, like, doing everything I could to, like, cultivate security within myself, attachment issues, but then after all of that, I'm still like, I feel like there's just something else, and, like, realizing and learning what, like, the twin flame journey is like really about was just like, okay, this is what it is. And it's such a big lesson on surrendering because again, like it's not like I choose surrender. It's like I had no choice.
Right. Well, I really like that perspective because I think I didn't even think about that till you said that, but the reason I am in a beautiful, healthy connection is from my twin experience. Like you learn how to really love from the heart, not from like a conditional place. So, yeah, it's like surrendering and also like having gratitude for like, okay, that experience actually placed me in a great position for like future relationships. Like the person you're seeing, it's probably like, okay, this is like it feels light, it feels good, and I'm kind of just rolling with that and continuing to like make sure I'm feeling good and like safe. And yeah, I think that's a great point of like we're now being placed in better relationships, and that's huge, right?
Yeah, yeah. And like discernment.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the whole like what we would love for people to know as they navigate the TF journey.
Yeah. I'll go first. I just think kind of what I've just touched on is be gentle with yourself through this process and take it slow and talk to as little people possible, as hard as that is, because I think what I did wrong was I talked to too many people about what I was moving through, and I felt like I was energy leaking, meaning like this very intense sacred experience that I was moving through. I didn't want to feel so alone in it. Therefore, I would like try to get help everywhere I could.
Like knowing this is a twin flame thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point. Because, like I said, unless somebody has gone through that journey or they're in it with you, like they just won't get it. Like this
Yeah.
would just sound like insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for you? What tips would you give?
No, I really like the one you said. Talk to people who get it, like me or Camille. This is something really sacred. Obviously, I don't want people to like keep this to themselves and suffer alone. So definitely reach out to both of us or either one of us if you want to like discuss it further. Um, I would say be very discerning with what you read or listen to or hear about online because it's like, yes, there are a lot of people who are going through the twin flame journey, but their experience is specific to them.
Mm.
Yeah. And this sounds annoying because when I used to hear about like, the twin flame journey, the ultimate goal is inner union, is about like focusing on yourself. Because I was like, you know how sometimes you need to focus on yourself, your own healing, your own growth, your own projects, your own success. But it's easier to focus on the thing that is completely out of your control. So one of my mentors kind of pointed that out, not directly to me, but I was like, fuck. I was like spending too much energy on trying to figure out the twin flame stuff. How do I like am I doing this mission wrong? Again, you cannot do it wrong. Like you just cannot. Life is a very long time. You never know how this is gonna unfold. Um
Yeah.
yeah, I want people to know you cannot do this wrong. And
Yeah.
it does get better, I promise.
It gets more like I feel it's so much more neutral and calm.
It's kind of like you have like a family member that you technically love, but you just like keep a distance with.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, this does not serve me. And I'm gonna approach this with like loving caution for me right
Yes.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's not about like unconditionally loving this person. The topic of unconditional love is like interesting to me. Um, I feel like as women is especially tricky because we can have unconditional love for somebody without like investing all of our energy into this person, you know?
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling.
No, agreed. I think anytime I get a bit of a confusion thought or yeah, maybe just like a mind loop about the journey or yeah, just coming back to like I love myself. I love that person and like and so it is. Like there's not much more that needs to be figured out and I think that's where the online communities can either be helpful or destructive is who are the people in these groups and how are they kind of approaching and handling the journey. And ending with my last tip is just like fall in love with your life, like the feelings you felt through having an encounter for the first time with that person, like that's the kind of energy and enlightenment and love within us, like with us at all times. So like why not just like bring and keep that frequency and enlightenment through like your day to day, and just like I'll even like go, I live by a forest now, and I'll just walk barefoot through the forest and I'm just like so happy. And so I think just like finding the simplest things that just make you very happy, and like really just dating yourself and like loving yourself, and again being just like patient and gentle with yourself through it, because if you just got on the journey, praying for you. It's
Reach out if you know that this calls to you. Um, Interesting. Okay, when you were talking about, like meeting this person was such a magical experience, I would say like that feeling was like I was like in awe. Like how could I like meet someone who's so much like me? It's like you finish each other's sentences. It's kind of like this like delight in life. And I feel
Huge
like you have
delight.
like a attachment to this person because it's like I want more delight. It's kind of like a weird feeling of like, oh, the like life could be so amazing. Um, so it's like what I'm really seeking is delight, and it doesn't always have to come through this person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that came to mind is that okay, so in a twin flame like pair, there are like two. It's like one soul, two individuals, right? So there's like the feminine and the masculine. And I guess like the lessons are different for the feminine versus the masculine. So like Camille and I, we identify this has nothing to do with gender, by the way, but we are the feminine twin in our dynamic. We're dealing with the masculine twin. And I guess like for the masculine twin, their lesson is to like really, like tap into their own intuition and their feeling, and like they're opening their heart, if you will. Is like, hey, this person in front of me is different and it feels strange, and I can maybe explore this even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And for the feminine twin is the opposite. It's like, I know we're connected on a soul level, but I need to lean into my own masculine energy and do what makes sense logically in the 3D world. So it's like the lesson and the challenges here are like kind of different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. And yeah, I like that you brought up the counterpart differences, because with that Kundalini, it's called like the Shakti and the Shiva. And so the rising is, I think, the feminine, but then the Kundalini has to come back down through and go back all the way down to the root, and that's the masculine Shiva coming down. And so you really need both. And I think what I'm learning is getting more into my masculine, and like I've always had the intuitive and the integration, but I think yeah, what I've really learned is um masculine is like action, right? And fire, and like takes action. And so I think like getting into what we're good at and taking action on that, and like solar plex, like empowerment. And so yeah, the polarities, it's I think that's the most fascinating, coolest part about this journey. And even if you're not a twin, we all have divine feminine and masculine energy within us, and it's just finding the alchemizing balance between both. So it's
Yeah.
powerful. It's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, shall we wrap it up?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, this was
wonderful.
great.
Good. Okay, Camille, tell us where we can find you and connect with you.
Yeah, so I have a website, essencewithin.net, and I also have an Instagram, which is essencewithin111, 1111, if you will.
So it's 1, 1,
And
1, 1.
yes. And yeah, those are probably the best two ways to reach and contact and connect. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on today to talk about this interesting yet magical yet wild topic.
Truly. Well, you're a wonderful soul, and I'm happy we did this. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thanks, Andy.